no one wanted to talk about it. It was crazy. Yeah. You were feeling a type of way. You're growing. Now you're a teenager. You're hormonal. Yeah. And you're over here doing all this crazy stuff. Or not doing all this. I was feeling all this crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. And you like have no context for it except for the locker room and porn and all this stuff. And that immediately informs how you're supposed to go about it.
Right.
Versus, hey, Dad, like, I have a boner. I could never go to my father and talk about shit like that. Yeah. It would just not. It just would not happen. He would open a Bible. We would start praying.
Right. Right. 100%. 100%.
That should not be how it. Like this complete rejection of like natural biology.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're supposed to like neglect yourself and not feel these things. Like maybe that is the way we're supposed to be, but I'm still currently feeling this way and I have to deal with it. And praying with a boner is crazy.
Right.
That's insane.
That's such a wild example.
But like, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Intellectual Podcast. We're just putting a little sprinkle of news in the polarizing conversations of the internet. I'm Jem.
And I'm Renee.
And we're your hosts for today in our brand new space that got set up so much easier than I was expecting it to. And I'm very pleased and very happy about that. Yes. And it's a nice little thing. It's come together. Yep. We're close again.
I know.
I hate it. But it's so good. It's so good. I'm very happy.
It feels fresh. Mm-hmm. It feels fresh. It does feel like, I don't know, now that we're like actually like talking and doing the podcast, I'm like, okay, this is like new space.
Right.
It is kind of funny how like you get like, I don't know, like comfortable in a space and like how like a different space can switch it up.
Right.
Neither here nor there.
I agree. Because it is like, there is like this newness to it where it's like, I feel like I'm out of place almost.
Right. Are we like, doing this for the first time? Like,
Again. But there's also like this kind of like vague familiarity. Like we've been doing this thing like here the whole time.
Right.
I don't know what's going on, to be honest, but we're here and it's fun and we're doing it. And we're going to be talking about something we've been alluding to so much on this podcast. I feel like we've referenced this conversation at least 50 times.
Yeah, several.
Like, come on.
At length, for sure.
We're all doing it. We all kind of suck at it. We all could be better at it. And we're talking about intercourse, everyone.
Sex.
S-E-X. S-E-X. You fornicators over here and all you casual, all these things, you know, we're going to talk about it. We don't necessarily have a message. We don't necessarily have a point. We're just sharing and starting the conversation specifically about sex and how our experience of sex has been and where we want to take these branches of this discussion moving forward. Yeah? Cool. Yep. So if you're horny, I don't know why you're listening to a podcast, but
actually, please turn this off. I feel a little uncomfortable if you're listening to this while you're horny.
But if you're sexually active, or you're thinking about thinking about being sexually active, or you are experimenting with your sexuality, or you are trying to expand the nature of what it means to procreate with another human being, this is the episode for you. Yeah, and hopefully you can take something away. To use in the future endeavors.
Yeah. Also, too, if you're just like kind of looking to get away from just the so polarizing conversations.
Wow, that's like
which
such
we
a
say,
good fucking point. Though.
Like if you're trying to like have some relief from all of like these polarizing discussions around sex. Especially in this day and age where hookup culture is such a thing. And like, I think this will be a really fun conversation because it'll be a very human conversation because we'll be coming from a place of our own like personal experiences and how we've kind of grown and navigated sex and intimacy, and especially from two people who grew up very religious.
Right,
so that'll be even more fun.
Yeah, we have very similar backgrounds in parenting in the sense of how it shaped our views and our progression through this sexual journey we've been on. Yeah. So I don't know if our takeaways would be the same.
Yeah, I don't know that they would.
But I guess we'll find out. We'll find out. Yeah, but they started the same place. I'm very curious to see how they kind of branched
in different
very
areas.
Interesting.
Which honestly is actually not that surprising that they would, because you're a man and I'm a woman.
Right, exactly. Like we have to go about sex very differently,
Yeah,
which we
exactly.
might get into, might not. We'll see how it goes. But the humanness of the conversation, I love that you brought that up.
Yes.
Beautiful point. Because every time you go on the internet, you think, or every time you hear something about sex on the internet, all it's telling you is how you're not doing it correctly.
Yeah.
And how you were saying last time, it's like something that's super ubiquitous. It's something that everyone has a strong opinion about.
Right. Yep.
And it's always like, you need to be doing more of this. You need to be doing
Right.
more of this. You have to do this. You have to, and it's just
Right.
like, oh, I just want to
There's
feel
always
loved.
like,
I just want
I just want to
intimacy.
feel loved.
Like, what is this?
No. There's so many rules and like there's so many like things where people are like, don't do this because it's bad for you. It's going to be super detrimental, or do that because this is so much better. And like, there's just like everyone has like an opinion on
like
it.
you need to express yourself in this way in
Right.
the erotic space, but everything in the erotic space is like just confusing and reversed of how you're supposed to be socialized in reality. And then in America, you have the Puritan legacy.
Right.
And it's
Right.
like, we live in a hypersexualized society, but like also very shamed about sex and all that stuff. So it's like,
it's confusing. And granted, we'll probably talk about those things at some point in like our continued discussion around sex. But I do like and enjoy that we're starting it from just like a very much like, I think we are two people that have had very relatable experiences in this realm. And I think,
AKA we're whores.
Yep.
And that's okay. We accept it.
Hell yeah. At least I'm good at it.
Or something. I'm not going to say I'm good at it. But you just have to find that out. Maybe or maybe not. We'll see. We'll see. Talk to the people I fuck, but you don't know who they are. Nobody does. Keep that shit to myself.
Keep that shit to myself.
But anyways, before that, what's been going on in the interwebs? A lot of drama in the black community right now, actually. A lot of black creators coming and speaking out. One creator in particular, you want to talk about it? Because you did the deep dive. I don't know enough about it. I just heard that. I just saw that one video.
Right.
So please educate us all about what's happening with Fannita.
Fannita. She is a spunky girl.
She is. She got a lot of personality.
She has a lot of personality. And as we all know, that doesn't always translate super well to the internet always.
Right.
And it's actually funny because she, at some point in her long rant, did discuss like how she felt like she could never show her real self on the internet because she felt people would judge her, and that the person that we're seeing in these videos that she's releasing is the real her. So that's something to keep in mind.
Maybe should have kept that to herself.
Keep that to yourself.
Yeah, but okay.
Yeah. So Fannita, I think like from what I gather, like the initial like issue the black community specifically had with her started back, I think it was like a year ago or so. With a Tarte Cosmetics like influencer trip. You know how they take them to
Tarte is the one that used like jet black coal foundation for the...
No.
That's a different one?
That recent controversy, that was a different makeup brand. I forget what... Actually, was it? I don't think it was Tarte. Okay. I don't think it was. No,
that would
Tarte...
be crazy.
Yeah. No, right? I mean, granted, they already have like... Tarte is already known for like... When they do these influencer trips, they don't have a lot of diversity. Like it's very much like they just like very like sus in that way. There's also like rumors, maybe not necessarily rumors, but I don't know the exact facts of it, but just like not paying their black influencers and creators as much as they do their white counterparts, et cetera, et cetera. So a year ago or so, there was one of these black influencers who was invited to this trip who ended up not going. Because she was just having a lot of issues, feeling as if she was not on equal footing with some of the other influencers who were white. And it just was a bad experience. So she backed out. Obviously everyone was like, good for you, stand up for yourself. Like you deserve to be like paid like a certain amount. Like you deserve the same. Like I think there was some issues with like, she was getting different amenities than some of the other people and she was confused on why. Et cetera, et cetera.
It's such a crazy thing for a brand to do. Like,
and you know what I think the brand said too? I think they came out and said they made some sort of video about it. And I think they might have said something about her follower count or something like that. But I don't know. I just feel as if you're going to bring a group of influencers onto a trip, they all get the same thing. Like, unless like I feel like they all get like the same shit, you know?
Because no influencers are really like an A-list celebrity.
No, exactly.
So you're not like, it's not Kim Kardashian and then some random.
Right.
So
it just doesn't make any sense. So anyways, this Black creator backs out. Everyone's supporting her in that. Like, thank you for speaking out. Like, especially on a brand that's so large like that, to say something. Fannita jumps in and is like, I'll do it. Like, I don't care. Like, I'll take the money, blah, blah, blah. So essentially everyone's issue with it was like, you are like, you're doing such a disservice, not only to yourself, but then to the community for being willing to participate in something that's so obviously like unfair. And like, to be like, oh, well, I'll be the token Black girl. Like, I'll do it, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay. Like, it's just,
like, get
it's
your
upsetting.
bag, but at the same time, you're missing the point.
Exactly. It's upsetting. Fast forward to now, Homegirl has been coming out talking about how, you know, she as a dark-skinned Black woman, how she's realizing she's treated unfairly and how like she's not paid as much, and like dealing like just the kind of venting about the gripes of those things, which are all incredibly valid. People are just, the Black community is now getting upset with her, I think, because they feel as if, like, people on the internet are saying that they feel as if like she basically said fuck you to the Black community a while ago. It was like, I'm about my bag, whatever, fuck y'all. And then now when it's convenient for her to like have this narrative of being a Black woman, she's now using that to like her advantage. And
so
then
it seems very disingenuous.
It feels very disingenuous.
Gotcha.
And then on top of that, like, she just kind of says some wild, like, crazy shit. Like, she was talking like talking down to like, oh, you broke all my broke ass followers, like, fuck you. And
the way she was saying it too, I'm just like, ew.
She clearly, like, she's like, this is me getting my revenge. Like, she very like vindictive, very just like, I don't, just evil, mucky.
Just evil.
that's it feels that way. Yeah. Like, it does. It's just like, or it's not like evil. It's just like, she clearly has like a lot of hurt and like needs therapy, maybe, because that's understandable. She was a fat Black woman, fat, dark-skinned Black woman, and has since lost weight and like clearly has had
double
like
homicide.
Oh my God. Damn. Double homicide. Fat and Black.
Right. Pick a struggle.
Pick a struggle. Oh no.
That's crazy. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh my
so
God.
Sorry.
You know. Yeah, so I think a lot of the hurt that goes into it for her is that like she has been bullied by the internet, by her followers, as she says, for a majority of the time since she's been an influencer, since she's been on the internet. She's been heavily bullied for the way that she looks and all these sorts of things, and she wants to get revenge, basically. Like, it's her whole motive is, you know, like to show these people like, fuck you, like, I'm going to like she was saying some stuff about like, I'm gonna fuck your like something, like she was just saying some, you know what I mean, like when people go like, oh, I'm gonna fuck your mom, I'm gonna, that thing that you love, I'm gonna buy it, that thing that, like, you know what I mean, like
it goes back to that whole like SZA thing we were talking about. These parasocial relationships.
Yes.
And I'm just like, these people don't know you.
Yeah.
First of all. So you are like yelling at a screen and embarrassing yourself.
Yeah.
To the ether. For what?
Yeah. And also too, like, you are like because I'm sure there are people who actually were bullying her 100%, doing some wild, evil, not cool shit. But like, to then go on to the internet and like you're feeding that, and you're giving them exactly what they want from you. You're
definitely the villain of this story.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, you're not like, because what about all the followers who genuinely love you and like, you know, who are here for you? Like, to literally say that about your broke followers, like to blatantly say, not even like to all the broke people who bullied me, no. All you broke ass motherfuckers.
Fuck you.
Every last
and everything
one of
you stand on.
Yeah. I don't stand on much. I'm broke.
Right.
Like,
right.
Like, what?
Like, shit, what I do.
Right.
trying to.
Damn.
For sure.
Damn.
For sure.
But yeah, so she's kind of lost it a little bit. I just have, I think she just needs to get off the internet, and I think she
break.
just like I think she just needs to take a break.
For sure.
That's one of those moments where you're chronically like, you're on the subreddits, like threads and all these sorts of things, like looking at all the things that people are talking about you. You are just deeply, chronically online right now. And like, as a public figure, I think you just sometimes gotta
take a step back
because that isn't like always reality.
I agree.
You
I agree.
know?
When you get that lost in the sauce,
Yeah.
you kind of have to separate yourself a little
Right.
bit. Because who are
Right.
you arguing with, Fannita?
Right. We're losing the plot.
We're losing the plot.
We're losing the plot just
every
a little
time.
bit.
My thing with her was that she said the thing about not being paid enough as a Black creator. And I get that.
Yeah.
Me personally, as a creator, I have never had to deal with brands trying to skimp me, luckily.
Yes.
But it's not necessarily about you being Black as much as it is about your ability to market to the brand's intended audience. So what brands pay creators is a direct relationship between what value they're getting from paying the creator for their audience.
Right.
And she's over here comparing herself to Alex Earl.
Yeah.
And everyone was saying, or at least all the marketers, the creative strategists, all those people were saying, like, Fannita, it's not that you're Black. Okay.
Yeah.
I am Black in the creative space. It's not that you're Black.
Yeah.
It's Alex Earl having raving fans of
Yeah.
people wanting to literally be her.
Yes.
6 million people wanting to be her
Right.
is a much more powerful marketing force than the people that follow you because you're kind of quirky, kind of funny,
Right.
and you're like kind of dramatic. Like
Yeah.
that's not as much spending power as you might want. My content gets high marketability because people want to make the things that I'm making.
Yes.
There's a relationship there.
Right.
If I'm using a certain tool, so many people want to use that tool. Versus if I'm over here making jokes and talking shit about my followers and all this stuff, I'm not going to buy your makeup, Fannita.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care what you're doing. I'm not trying to be you.
Exactly.
I would hang out with you, but I'm not trying to be you.
Yeah. No, this is very true. And like I said, like she's done I feel like she said so many things like in regards to the Black community. People don't even really like want to like support her. Like you're not putting yourself in a position where people want to be influenced by you.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
She
It's
was
just
even
sad.
saying shit about about Black men. And like how she only dates white men.
Yeah, I
and
did
she
hear
posted
about
that
that.
video where she was trying to kiss that white guy, and he was
just like, "Get off of me."
No, and I'm like, girl, stop.
They don't even want you.
Yourself.
They don't even want you. Why are you saying all this stuff? Now you look crazy.
You were doing us such a disservice.
That is rough, man.
It is rough.
That is so
It is so rough. It's one of those things I feel secondhand embarrassment. I think that's like largely the feeling that I feel towards Fannita. I don't necessarily feel outraged at her. We're talking about social media at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
This is TikTok. Like let's not pretend this is not what it is.
Right, we're talking about TikTok drama.
Right.
This is not like, breaking news, like crazy, like shit going on. So I like the most that I feel about it is secondhand embarrassment.
Right.
But it is like
rough.
a spectacle to see a person like that just really on the internet be like that. Because that was something I was actually thinking about earlier today. I'm like, why am I like not TikTok famous? And then when I thought about it, I was like, I have yet to be able to get past the point of being cringed at myself. Like I
agree. I analyze your content all the time. I'm just like, Renee, if you just stopped caring so much.
I will try and do stuff and then I cringe and then I don't do it because I start cringing at myself.
It's like, it's okay. It's okay. The We Can Make It Happen thing was so cringe for me for so long. And every time you guys like make fun, you say it, right? It's
I know, you always hate it.
Ugh. That's how I feel. It's like, oh my God. Like that. Like you don't say that 24/7. That's not a catchphrase. You don't have catchphrases in real life.
Right.
But it's like, the thing you have to be for the internet.
Exactly.
You just kind of have to be that.
Yeah.
You just kind of have to be that.
I haven't been
You have to be a
willing.
caricature of yourself. And that's okay.
I have not been willing. Because this is the thing. There's times where I record. And granted, who knows if like my viral video is sitting in my drafts? Probably not. You know what I mean?
It
like,
probably is.
Like,
I would put money on that shit, low key.
Who knows? But like, there are definitely times where I record, like, not even times, a lot of times I record something and I don't post it. Cause I'm like,
and it's so funny because you, like, off the cameras, you're just such this like fun and quirky and weird, crazy person that honestly is cringy.
Yeah,
like
I'm super cringe.
Like you're super cringe.
That's so funny. You're like in real life, I'm so cringy, and I know it, and I don't care.
It works, and everyone loves you.
Yes,
and then
I love my cringe in real life. I just don't like recording it.
I'm just saying, man. There has to come a point where you're just.
Yeah, I just got to do it. And I'm clearly fine doing it. Like, I have no qualms in like the podcast format of like,
because you have the it's not just you.
Yeah,
here, right?
this is very
You can
true.
bounce off a human being.
This is
so
very true.
honestly, like us recording the podcast is just you just being you in relation to me with cameras on versus you sitting in your room by yourself.
No, that's what makes it worse. That's what makes it worse. I'm alone.
Yeah.
I'm alone in my room.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to not care.
Oh my gosh. But yeah.
Just have to make a relationship with the camera. That is your audience. The phone. It took me so long. Even to this day, I still feel weird like interacting with that thing right there.
Yeah.
It's like a little black screen.
Yeah,
I feel like hey, it's awkward, but
yeah. I don't know. Maybe one day we'll get there. You would think that it'd be. I mean, like it's not that. Like I said, it's not like I can't do it.
You can.
I can.
You do it.
I
you
do
just
it.
don't post it.
Yeah, I just don't post
You just don't post it.
I just don't post it.
Maybe on some very deep metaphysical, like I'm your friend, so I can like hyperanalyze you. Maybe that's like your excuse. You're like avoiding success in that way. So you're like, you know what? I'm you know, like that thing. So there's this thing where it's like people have a lot of potential to be like really great, right? Okay. You have all the factors. Yeah. Like your sister, actually. That's a really good example. Okay. Everyone always telling her she can do this, she can do that. She's so talented. She has every ingredient to make the perfect recipe. Yeah. But she always finds herself where she is because she just doesn't do that. And every time you ask her about it, there's always an excuse. There's always this, that didn't happen, this, blah, 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 this and the other. But if you filter all those reasons down, what it ends up being is that the idea of getting to where you think you want to go terrifies you because you have no context of what that's going to be like. Yeah. So instead of risking it and being in a place that's like uncertain and crazy, you sit back and you are complacent in a reality you can control. Yeah. You can control your unsuccess better than you can control a success you've never experienced. Yeah, this is very true. And it's like, oh, I'm awkward and quirky. I can't be on the internet. Or are you just afraid of success? Or are you just afraid of success? No, you're right. I care too much. I care too much. What would you say I need to do with my content? Out of curiosity. Post it. Oh. Post it. Let's start there. let's just start fucking there. Start posting shit. Once you get over the hump of just like how your content needs to be, especially on TikTok specifically, which like the aesthetic on TikTok is so like whatever. Yeah. After you get over that, then we can isolate different components and strategies of how you maybe do more of that, do more of this, but you're not doing enough of anything to have like an actual useful opinion about it. This was I was not expecting to have like this talk about your content. But I do think about it from time to time. Yeah. I'm just like, because I see your shit pop up my thing, and I see some other shit, and I'm just like, why does this bullshit have like 250,000 likes? And this is kind of ass. Yeah. I personally think you deserve more followers. That's just me. I appreciate that. That's just me. I appreciate it. Yeah. I also like just like go through phases where like I just don't want to. Like that's also the thing. It's like it's not even, and maybe that's just me keep holding myself. That's another like another manifestation of it. But like I really like I don't like being on the phone as much as I'm on the phone. Like I already feel like I'm on my phone a lot. And I don't like how much I'm on the phone. So I'll go through phases where I'm just like, I don't want, like making content
on there on my phone is like just even more on my phone.
Wouldn't that be different if you are like doing it as a career?
Potentially, yeah.
You're not really like on your phone. You're on your phone with a reason.
Yeah.
Like this is what you have to do versus just like surfing the interwebs. And as a person who has made the internet my bitch.
Yes.
It does change your association with it because I see my screen time 7 hours on TikTok sometimes, and an hour of that is scrolling through the thing.
Yeah.
But when you're like, oh, that was me commenting and like researching all this stuff and interacting with the community as a creator, it's a different association. It's a completely different association because I'm doing like market research. I'm doing like trend setting. I'm trying to like figure out my next thing. Yeah. And I'm not just mindlessly consuming content. Yeah. And it's different. It's really different.
Huh. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's not about seeing, Renee. It's just about doing it or not.
I know.
It's just about doing it or not.
I know.
You know what? Here's the thing. So I actually wasn't going to tell you this, but I'll tell you this because maybe this will motivate you. A little friendly competition. I know you're only competitive with yourself, but maybe this can help you out because I am starting a new channel.
Okay.
Because my food channel can't market the podcast. So I'm going to grow a new channel with like my own little like just me in its entirety.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to be experimenting with a lot of stuff. And I'm going to grow that shit. And if I make it to 10,000 before you,
oh my god.
I think that's all. Yeah, wouldn't that be so embarrassing? Because the food thing, you can always look at it as an excuse and be like, well, you started during the pandemic. You literally started like the middle of 2020 when everything started. So you had the heads up. I wish I did that, blah, blah, blah. But if I do it again, crazy, right? Then you'll have literally no excuse. Yeah. So instead of feeling like that, which might like discourage you even more, just grow with me right now, kid. There's no reason not to. Okay. There's no reason not to. You've been saying this. We've had this conversation like 6 times.
Many times. So we've had this conversation.
2024, you're 25. The prefrontal shit is working like it's supposed to.
It is.
And here we are.
I don't have that as an excuse anymore either, I guess.
Don't let my shit grow faster than yours after you've been doing this for like the last 3 years.
Yeah. On and off, not consistent.
Not. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like you've had the account for like the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Are you ready to blow up?
Okay, moving on.
I'm just saying.
No, you're right. You're right.
But again, not expecting to have that conversation, but it's relevant. I love it, and we can just go right into everything else.
I think we should.
Ooh, man, that transition. I feel like talking about that was like too real for me. And now the next phase that we're going to talk about is going to be even realer. And I'm not ready for that like level of like candor. Yeah. I like wasted all my candor talking about content.
Oh my gosh, shut the fuck up. It's not even that deep.
For me it is. This is my life right now. Like it literally is this deep.
It is.
But where to start? Where to start talking about sex? Well, my parents had it, and I'm here.
Now I'm here.
My parents actually never talked to me about sex. The only thing I remember hearing about sex growing up was not to have it.
Yeah, that's a classic one. That is a classic one. My parents were like a little bit more forgiving than that. They were like, sex is great. You can't have it until you're married. Like they at least like admitted to its enjoyment.
Right.
But they were still like, you are not allowed to have it.
Yeah, you're far too young to be having, and you were. Yeah. Like that's very true.
No, but it wasn't. They were like, it is for marriage. It is in the confines of marriage. That's when you have it with one person. Blah blah blah. That was kind of the way that it went.
Right. Which in retrospect, I don't disagree with that. I'm not like as like committed to that notion. Yeah. As like the religious people are talking about like sex and marriage, premarital sex is a sin, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I do see the value in having the container for sex.
Only having sex with one person?
Well, that if you can, it's not as practical these days. But like in an idealistic sense, that is the best way. That is the best way to have it. In an ideal sense. I don't
even know that that's the best way in an ideal sense. Like, I feel like it's a... well, you'll see how I feel about sex after this.
Right.
I feel like it's so like restrictive to like what sex can be. Like, not that you can't, like, obviously, like, if you have just had sex with one person and like have made that decision, I'm sure your sex life is flourishing. I'm not discounting that. But what has been so integral for me is like the exploration of my sexuality with multiple partners, and that also being a like very cool like ideal as well. Granted, did I make mistakes along the way? Sure, here and there, but I could also see how if I went completely the opposite way of like only having sex with one person, how that would like feel deeply unsatisfying to me. Just because I'm like, I don't know.
And I wonder if that is a byproduct of the reality that you've experienced versus like the way it's supposed to be. I don't think it's supposed to be any way in particular.
Yeah.
But like when I think of it, and to your point, the thing that really stands out is I made a lot of mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
Multiple partners to me is never as good as like a singular partner or like fewer partners, because the mistakes you're making along the way are so much more damaging than just some casual little, oops, I tripped and I made a mistake. It's like that can be defining for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Totally. 100%. Yeah.
So it's the exploration. I understand.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Yeah.
But to think that you can only explore that with multiple people and you wouldn't necessarily get that same exploration with two like-minded people that are prepared to explore that together.
But I just think that mindset can only have come from the exploration that you have had. Like,
yes,
do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Like, and even like the mistakes, right? You talk like the negative. I mean, this can be applied to anything and not just sex, but like the positives are made positive by the balance of like the so-called negative, you know, like you are able to know and appreciate and love and experience and orchestrate a beautiful sexual experience because you have also had these experiences that have been not as great or poor, or even, dare I say, traumatic. And this is coming from someone who has had traumatic experiences. So I'm not like saying this like, oh, flippantly. Right. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like when I think about it, like my mindset, the way that it is, because I had explored and kind of fumbled and stumbled along in certain ways. Granted, like I don't want to be like careless and say like, I'm not saying like necessarily like just going out and fucking everything that moves is the way to go and you'll figure it out and then you'll land here and it'll all be fine.
Right.
Like I'm not saying that.
Like, literally,
it needs to be a little bit.
Be that.
It still needs to be a more intentional than that.
Right. But trying to avoid a bad experience. It's just not a good way to live life, one.
Right.
But I actually do agree with what you're saying because I can only say that my perspective is informed by my experience. And when I was having the experience before I had the sexual experience, then why and what to do in that space, I didn't know.
Yeah.
But looking back, I can see that, oh yeah, if two people are like-minded and exploring, then of course it'll be perfect. But I didn't get here without all the sex that I had.
Yeah.
So
it's like I didn't come to that like mindset of being able now I 100% feel capable of cultivating that experience with one person long term.
But you couldn't do that at the start.
I could not have done that at the start.
Which, to that point, my thing in retrospect, looking back, if you had that, that would be the ideal, which is why I say it's an ideal. Not that it's like a practical or even a realistic thing to go through, but if I could put it in a box and just like say one thing that I think like this, humans should have sex this way. The most ideal, unproblematic way to do it is to have the understanding that you probably can only get by having a bunch of sex before you have a bunch of sex, and then explore that shit with one person.
Sure. Yeah, I still disagree with that, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I also do wonder to that point, like, I guess we'll both say, like, I can't speak to the experience of someone who has just had one partner. And because people do that. We come from like a religious background, so we both know a lot of people, I'm sure, who maybe have done that or are doing that. And so I guess I can't speak to that experience at all. Who knows? Like, maybe there probably is a world, I'm sure, where people have just had sex with one person for the rest of their life and they were very much satisfied with that. But I can't speak to that experience. So I feel like a lot of the things I'm going to say in this conversation is going to probably sound as if I am to like a small degree. I do tend to lean more towards exploration in this sexual realm rather than just being with one person. But that's not necessarily me saying that invalidating that experience that maybe some people have had.
Which I think might be a good way to frame it, because I will probably be coming for the more romantic ideal.
Of one person.
One person. And it's funny because, like, obviously that's just not the reality in my life.
Yeah.
But growing up, that was what I wanted.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So before I had sex for the first time, in my brain, it's like I didn't need to have sex with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And it probably was informed by religion, but it wasn't so much of this is the correct way to do it. It was just how I felt about it. I was, again, hopeless romantic without the expression of hopeless romance.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what I wanted in my life.
Right.
I didn't need to be a whole like freaking player with a bunch of women and doing all that stuff.
Right.
It's like, I just find one decent dude, one decent girl, and call it a day. It's like, it's good. And we can explore what that is. And it was only after that didn't work out for the first time that I was like, well, it is what it is. Broke the seal now. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. And then when you can be a player, it's like, why not be a player?
Yeah.
So
it's like, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. In college was a whole other thing.
Yeah.
With like the type of attention that you're getting and why you're getting that type of attention.
Yeah.
Being a man, I personally don't care about being seen as a piece of meat.
Yeah.
And the fetishization of black men in college spaces just worked to my advantage. So I'm not going to not take advantage of that.
Right. Well, there you go. There you go. That's so funny that you had that like ideal like growing up, because I like, even in my like most Christian of moments, like I was like deep in the faith. I remember having a conversation with a friend. I think it was like a freshman or something like that in high school, and we were talking about it, and I was like, I just want to make sure that, like, I was like, I will have sex with people that I love. I don't necessarily care about only having sex with one person. I was like, I don't think that's realistic. I was like, I don't think that's realistic that I'm only going to have sex with one person. I want to have sex with people that I care about and that I love and like I connect with emotionally. Like I remember like having like that whole conversation.
How old were you?
I was a freshman in high school.
Oh, 14. Okay, that's not crazy.
Yeah.
Thought you were in elementary school talking
my
about
God.
that. I was just like, how?
Just a little fifth grade.
Right. Like, nah, I don't think it's realistic to fuck one person. Huh?
Actually, what I think is
Like, what the heck?
No, I don't even think I was thinking about sex like that at all.
I
in
didn't
elementary
discover
school.
girls existed until I was 13.
Really? Okay. I mean, I've been boy crazy my whole life. I definitely had crushes for sure. Past notes. Oh my gosh, I remember my fifth grade crush. Shout out Everett.
Shout out Everett. Not the shout out. No. Hey,
I was in love with him. Oh my God. I was so
crazy.
obsessed. I was like so convinced that I was going to marry him.
And here we are.
And here we are.
we
like,
are.
yeah, no, not gonna happen at all.
Oh man.
I think he's in a relationship now, so
Shout him out.
Shout-
There you go.
shout
They're about to break him up. Relax, bitch. The fuck? God damn. Like, who is that, Everett? Who the fuck is
we
Hey, girls, you know you would take that crazy too.
That's
You were listening to a
true.
podcast. Shout out. You're like,
I'm saying because I don't think they listen to it at all. Like there's about
when you get a text
1% chance.
Hey, why are you shouting me out on the podcast? My girlfriend is so mad. I'm sleeping on the couch right now. What do you mean?
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
No, but yeah, I definitely feel like I never really had like that. Just I've always just saw it as unrealistic, and maybe, and that's something that like I see like in like my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we can like start there, like
Right.
the inception of how we've come to be the way that we are.
You could say the insemination.
Yes, the never mind. I don't like that. No, thank you. No, thank you. I am like, I definitely was like a sexual child. That's like maybe like a weird thing to say, but even now,
it is,
like,
but I understand.
You know what I mean?
Just like those words together.
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah.
Sucks
but
so
like,
bad.
but I'm talking about myself, so
Right,
it's not weird, right? You know
But
what I
it is, but it's
mean?
not.
Yeah.
Yes, it's fine.
I've always been like a pretty like sexual being, and what's unfortunate about being someone like that, who then grows up in like a very like structured Christian like home where you don't speak about those things at all, is it's very like you feel like very dirty. You feel very much like you have to like really like harbor a secret.
Right, repress yourself.
You have to really repress it, and there's no outlet of expression at all. And in the sense of like, you don't have a parent who is like providing any sort of education to you at all about what's going on with your body. Like, cause that's also what it is. You don't know what's like going on. You're like,
Right.
What is happening to me? Why am I like, like this in high school, like just like a horny motherfucker,
Right.
you know, like you have all these things that are happening. Your body's changing and you don't understand it. And then you're also like not getting any understanding from your parents at all.
The people who are supposed to educate you about
Right.
it.
And like, granted, I still like go back and forth, or I don't have any children of my own yet, so I don't know like exactly how that would go about. And obviously it has to be age appropriate. But I think just the baseline, like being shame, right? Like sex is not a thing that you do. You have it.
It's not a thing that you talk about.
Yeah. You have it for marriage. You have it for babies. Like that's like what it is. But it's like, okay, well, if I have it for babies and I have it for marriage, then why am I feeling
Why am I trying to have babies right now?
Right.
Man?
Exactly.
What's going on?
What's going on?
Like, I'm not at marrying age.
Right.
But I'm trying to pop one out. So
Right, exactly.
Explain this to me.
Explain why my body is telling me these things.
And I don't know if it's that awkward for parents. And like you were saying, age appropriate to like how much and how do you explain it?
Right.
But for me and my cousins who are like all like teenagers, 17 and younger, and they're talking about boys and all that stuff, I like really make it a point to at least like have a conversation and let them kind of guide it.
Totally.
And inform this stuff. And then all these kids, because of the internet, they have knowledge that I did not possess at 10 and 11 years old.
Yeah.
But just not being afraid to like talk about sex at all. Because it's a natural thing. And no, because like mine exactly the same as yours.
Yeah.
No one wanted to talk about it. It was crazy. You were feeling a type of way. You're growing. Now you're a teenager. You're hormonal.
Yeah.
And you're over here doing all this crazy stuff. Or not doing all this. I was feeling all this crazy stuff. And no, you like have no context for it except for the locker room and porn and all this stuff. And that immediately informs how you're supposed to go about it.
Right.
Versus... hey dad, like I have a boner. I could never go to my father and talk about shit like that.
Yeah.
It would just not not happen. He would open a Bible. We would start praying.
Right. Right. 100%. 100%.
That should not be how it, like this complete rejection of like natural biology.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're supposed to like neglect yourself and not feel these things. Like maybe that is the way we're supposed to be, but I'm still currently feeling this way and I have to deal with it. And praying with a boner is crazy.
Right.
That's insane.
That's such a wild example.
But like, that's
no, but it's true.
about.
It's
Like,
true.
like,
And I think though, like when it comes to like a Christian home, like when it comes to sex, it's like, it's not even just about sex. Like I think that these conversations about your body, because like now that I'm thinking about it, when it comes to like age appropriate, child appropriate, like conversations that you have around sex with a child, it's usually not about sex itself. It's about your body.
right.
You inform them and educate them
Going through
on their body.
changes.
Yeah. And like, and make that like a comfortable conversation to be had. Yeah. Because otherwise, and look, I mean, there's so many people. We all have just like deep shame because of that upbringing. But it is like, well, I'm currently working on not looking at my past in like a negative way, like in regret or anything like that. But it's like, damn, like, yeah, there was a lot of shame that I then carried into like when I went to college and when I finally did start exploring sexually, there was a lot of like shame that I had to like really like work through that was really, really hard. And a lot of that was because I was like, and then to have like sisters and whatnot, like you're having all these people who are like, okay, we're all supposed to just like be this way. I'm like, am I the only one?
Right.
Like, you know,
Right. You didn't even talk about it with your sisters at all?
Not really, like to some, like to a degree for sure. But like there would be moments where like my older sister would be like, which fair, like we know what pornography does to your brain. Like it's not like, I'm glad that she did not encourage it at all, but she'd just be like, don't watch, you guys don't watch porn, like it's not good, like no masturbate. Like I just remember like even my sisters kind of like, my older sister's like checking me and like saying all that kind of stuff.
So it's just another form of the
like,
repression.
Oh, okay, I can't like
I can't talk to you guys.
I can't even talk. Right, exactly. I can't even talk to my sisters about it. But I mean, it was from the top down. It's kind of trickle down economics.
Oh man, but I understand.
Oh my gosh,
I freaking get it.
Which is why I think like that being in mind, like I think that's probably why it was so important for me
To explore
the person that I am and the upbringing that I had. That it was so important for me to explore sexually because I would not be able to now engage in sex, intimacy at all in a healthy way if I did not go out and seek it for myself. Because there can be arguments made to the point of that I do not understand of people who only are with one person and can be with one person and are very satisfied with that right off the jump. Who maybe they had a really stable upbringing, very healthy household where they talked about these things and they,
not at all. Not even a little bit.
Yeah. So maybe that's like kind of the recipe or like the environment.
Well,
that
yeah,
kind of,
I can see that being a thing. Like if you have like the poster child of like a perfect happy family and your dad is just like really into your mom and your mom like super in love with your dad,
right?
You don't need an exploration. That's what it is. I want that.
Right.
But it's funny because I felt that way, but that was not the example that was being shown.
Right.
But inversely, I was exposed to the damages of what a multitude of sexual partners can do to people.
Totally.
At a very early age. So when I saw that, and I was always like this very perceptive type of kid. So I could put two and two together very quickly, even though I didn't know or didn't understand what I was putting together at the time. And I was just like, well, if this leads to this, then the opposite of this should lead to that. And I want that.
Right.
And so that's where that came from for the most part.
That makes sense.
And on top of because I was not a horny child at all. Like not even a little bit. I don't know why. Even to this day, it's like I have such a high like capacity for sexuality, but I'm not necessarily like I don't lead with that.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a horny person, like in general.
Yeah.
I have to turn that on if I want to be in that moment. Like it's something I actively like choose to be in. It's not something that persists within me 24/7. Maybe I was talking about how it's like the exploration was just never relevant to me. On top of that, like even growing up religious, I didn't experience a lot of shame in my sexuality. And that, like, we can go into that.
Man thing.
I mean, it's not necessarily a man thing per se, not for me. Because I get how like we talk about sexuality for men and women might inform that.
Yeah.
But in my family, sex was bad across the board.
For everybody.
For everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that has more to do with my association to external opinions. And like from a young age, I was just always like negotiating what other people were saying about things that I was perceiving. So like I can respect the fact that you're saying that.
Yeah.
But if I don't agree, I'm not just going to absorb that. Yeah. No matter who's saying it to me. I don't know why I was like that as a 5-year-old, because that doesn't make sense for a 5-year-old to be that way. But I was just like, you can say that sex is crazy, but if I'm curious about it, I'm going to be curious about it. Like I had no qualms about like my body and no qualms about just like being like naked and all that stuff. Like no shame. Wow. No freaking shame. Like at all. It's fine. It was just freaking fine for whatever reason. I know it's so atypical. And because of the lack of shame, it was just curiosity. Why are you calling so much attention to this? What is it about this that makes it so crazy? Because again, growing up religious, that's all you hear. You just say, sex is bad, don't have it.
Yes.
And you're feeling what you're feeling.
Right.
But like, what's so bad about it? No one ever explains what's so bad about it. And that just makes you want to see what's so bad about it.
Right.
And then you do and you realize it's not bad.
Yeah. Right. 100%. And you also get like the messaging of like, well, the reasons why you're feeling the way that you're feeling is that you're being tempted by the devil.
Exactly.
And like
Christians can explain away any phenomenon.
Right. This is the reason why you feel it so strongly. This is the way that the devil gets to us, is through like sex and like all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't think that's why I'm feeling so horny.
Right.
I don't think it's not because of the devil. Maybe it is.
Crazy.
Maybe he's hot. What's up, Lucifer?
Wait,
I'm going straight to hell, bro.
No, for real. If you weren't going before, you're definitely going now. Oh my goodness.
He's a fallen angel. I love a bad boy.
I love a spicy man.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, oh my God. I remember one time it was high school, probably like my junior year of high school. And we did, it was like our high school service. And they did like a whole thing about like sex, a whole sermon about it. And how they ended it was, I think they did something for the guys too, but I think it was something different. And it was really funny. But they had they had all of like the girls like come up and like we prayed. They did a whole thing, and like we dedicated ourselves to no sex until marriage.
Little purity ringing on it.
They gave us all a white flower that we all got, and I actually held on to it.
Me too.
Like I held on to the white flower. I had it like I pressed it down or whatnot, and I remember when I had sex for the first time, and I looked at it. I looked at it. No, it wasn't ash. Like it was just, but I tossed it. I was like, well, there goes that. There goes that.
No, yeah, they had a ceremony like that for us too. Yeah. All like the teenagers before you go to high school, which is funny because a lot of these girls were already starting to get pregnant,
right?
And they were over here talking about like, come on, everybody, walk up. We had the little rings. We were like getting married to Jesus, basically,
right?
Which is fine. But let's talk about this religion, right? Let's talk about this religious propensity for shaming people into submission in regards to sexual activity.
Yeah,
because they're quoting scriptures left and right about sexual immorality and fornication and all that stuff.
Yes,
but for the most part, and I know if I say this, people are gonna have such like strong opinions about it, because what it was originally used for and then what it's become is a whole conversation of like its validity. So I'll just tell you.
Yeah.
The original word that was translated from the Hebrew into the Greek, talking about sexual immorality, was porneia, which referred to like incest, bestiality, affairs, prostitution.
Pedophilia, maybe?
Yeah, stuff like that. Pedophilia, adultery, things of that nature. etc. Like things that just are just so subversive that you should not be doing that.
Yeah.
Unusual sexual behaviors. And then like idolatry, like worshiping sex gods and the phallic stuff that was happening a lot in the ancient world for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And replacing your pursuit of pleasure with your relationship with God, basically. And to that point, in the Old Testament, there is no, because that's the word that was used, there wasn't this aggressive denouncement of premarital sex. That wasn't really a thing that people were struggling with.
Yeah.
And like people weren't like really sexually promiscuous either. Like you picked a person and like the younger people that were super horny were like doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like crazy stuff unless you're like a prostitute and like that's bad. Obviously, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. But then over time, as it was being used and it progressed into the modern day, premarital sex was actually, no, it wasn't even that far. So when Paul became a thing, he was writing all like the New Testament, they were fucking like rabbits.
Gotcha.
It was a whole thing. And he was like, y'all need to focus on Jesus. Like y'all need some Jesus.
Need Jesus.
This is crazy. So stop like all this fornicating and start praying, because y'all, this is insane. Because the I forget who he was talking to specifically. It might have been like the Ephesians or some people he was preaching to, and they were just really horny people.
Gotcha.
And he was like, you guys need to stop all this premarital stuff because you're focusing on the wrong things. And then from there, it got taken as like premarital sex is a sin. But technically, nowhere in the Bible does it explicitly say that having sex before marriage is wrong. Because when God created man, Adam and Eve, he said two things and two things only. Well, three things. I don't remember the second one, but he said two things. And those two things were, don't eat the damn apple, bro. Like, don't. That's the one thing. You can have all these fruits.
Don't do it.
Don't eat the one in the middle of the garden. See that one right there? Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Yep.
And then he said, be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah. Hey, look, if I'm fruitful and multiplying.
Don't eat that fruit, but you can go be fruitful and multiply. Don't eat the damn fruit and go fuck.
That's funny.
That's what he said. Those are his first two commandments.
Hey, look, that's what the man said. That's what the big man. There are definitely going to be people. Right. We clip this. Who are going to be so like. Well, there's this verse where God says this, and that's the thing, is that all of this is up for interpretation in a lot of ways, and that's something that even in my recent conversation with your dad, where it's like it's a lot of like scripture is up for interpretation, and I think that makes people, a lot of Christians, really uncomfortable, because obviously the Word of God is like the law of the land and all this kind of stuff. And it's scary when the law of the land, the Word of God, is up for interpretation. But a lot of that stuff really isn't. Like you were saying, there's things that like the Bible has been translated so many times into different languages, and things have been taken out and all. It's been manipulated. It's a heavily manipulated religious text. So like also taking that with like a grain of salt as well with that knowledge. Like that's one thing that I will always like respect about like the Quran is they're like, we keeping that bitch in its original language. No translations
Learn the language if
allowed.
you want to read it.
Exactly. Love that. I absolutely love that, because I at least keeps some like integrity with like the original like text. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Things are lost in interpretation. But anyways, that's a whole like religious thing.
My point with that is
my brain just like
the point is that God made sex. Sex isn't as bad as Christians want to believe it to be. And nowadays in the modern, it's like you see these pastors on TikTok talking about it, how like they'll frame the conversation with how good sex is, like your parents did for you. And it's not just like sex is like demonic, you're sinful, you're lustful, you gotta do blah, 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 blah. And then you can have it during marriage, which is a horrible setup. That's
like
a
the
horrible
switch,
setup.
like it's absolutely horrible and not good until you're married.
And then you have to have it as much as possible. And then immediately you see these people that do that and they're like so stressed out and so confused.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the women, especially because of how we talk about sex for women, they're
Right.
just so ashamed that they can't even like get turned on with their husband who they love and they want to be with because of the indoctrination of the 13, 14, 25 years of sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad.
Right.
First and foremost, sex is good.
Right.
God created.
Amen. Amen.
Preach out. Like, hey, First and foremost, sex is good. God created it. It's a thing. It was supposed to feel good from the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is.
Exactly.
And then after that, the context happens.
Yeah.
Because after I had sex for the first time, I realized very quickly why you probably want to wait until marriage, like I was saying at the beginning. I get it and this is why I think having sex with multiple people can be more problematic than not. Because there's two things, and I wrote them down too. Let's see what these two things are.
Let's hear it.
Okay. Practical. Practical first. Young people dating around should refrain from having sex for one reason only. It's really hard to get into a person's inner world, their mind, if you're leading through their body. Because once you lead with body things, everything in their mind gets clouded with the chemicals that are released during body things. So things that are like deal breakers become like softer boundaries. Red flags become yellow flags.
Gotcha.
Because now you're trying to make excuses to justify the action.
Right.
Without really knowing who this person is. You're not going to be truly yourself with the person you're having sex with. Because the implications that are there.
Yeah.
So if you're like trying to date seriously, trying to look for marriage, refraining from that is more in your best interest.
Yes.
Do what you're going to do, but that's just the natural progression of things. Secondly, the amount, it's not talked about enough. It's not talked about enough. How, like what the implications of being that close to a person are. Every time you're that close to a person, the implication of what that is, and even more so for the first time you're that close to a person.
Yeah.
And people like to talk about soul ties a lot and all that stuff.
Yeah, the soul ties.
The soul ties, right. I'm going to say it a little differently in the sense that I'm going to talk about it framed with the erotic space. The erotic space is a realm which most of the time, especially in America, is reserved for you, the individual. Yeah. It's a place that you feel like you were feeling as a kid, and it's a place that you go. Yeah. It is, in essence, the trueness of who you are, free from all the rules and regulations that you're socialized to participate in. Yeah. The opening that space up to another person and not giving the proper like reverence and respect to what that means will have you crashing out so quickly. Because it's not just that they're inside of you or you're inside of them physically. Right. But you're also opening up a part of like one of the most vulnerable parts of yourself to a person, or not even necessarily to the person, but it's just the act of opening up, being vulnerable in that way for the first time with a person that no one is ready for. Yeah. And most people aren't ready for it because it's never talked about in that manner. No one talks about the vulnerability. Yeah. Everybody's talking about like the virginity. Everybody's talking about how painful it might be. Everyone's talking about how attached you might get. Right. But all that is just a byproduct of just like sharing that space with someone for the first time. And most times people are sharing that space with someone for the first time. It's to get it over with. It's led for the wrong reasons. Yeah. And it usually produces an outcome that isn't ideal. You're usually hurt from that type of opening up with a person because you're completely unprotected and you're unprepared for what's going on. Sure. Yeah. And most people don't take away a positive experience from doing that. Yeah. Versus if you do that for the first time in the structure, then the structure is already informing the experience, because the love is there, the commitment is there, and opening up, while it might be just as scary and just as like shocking, you are guaranteed a person to be there to help you process that.
Right.
And not just some random one night stand that may or may not be there. And you're trying to make sense of what that experience was for yourself.
Yeah. That is something that I, at least for myself, like I think I intuitively understood that I needed, because I was saying earlier, I always said like, when I have sex with someone, or with people, I want it to be because I love them, because I have an emotional connection with them, et cetera, et cetera. And granted, I've had sex with people that I did not love.
Right.
but
as one does.
But like, I was really like the first time I was having sex, I didn't necessarily care per se about like, I can't really remember exactly whether I cared if I was in a relationship or not, but I think I more so cared about like, did I really enjoy the person? Am I emotionally connected to them in some way? Do I have like some sort of like beyond or bond beyond like the physical? Like that's like, I want my first time experience to be with someone that like I genuinely care about, that I have some sort of emotional connection with. And I think that really like impacted, because there's so many women or people in general, but like I know so many women who have had just such negative experiences with their first time. And like a part of that is like, if you're having sex with someone especially for the first time, and you're uncomfortable in any way, you're like nervous, you're stressed out, it's going to hurt because you're tight. Your muscles are tight. You know what I mean? So like, there are like all these like different factors. So I do feel very lucky that my like first experience was, I mean, it like obviously
as much as you could have loved at that moment in your life.
Everyone looks back at their first time. You're like, okay, like obviously I've had way better sex since then. But like for it being my first time, like it was a good experience. But I think it was because I had like these like ground rules for that. And then once I had that, and I kind of learned, and it was my first relationship that I had sex. So once I had kind of learned that space, then I could kind of go and figure out from there how I wanted to engage in the space. But I think it was, crucial for me for that first time for it to be that like safe space, or what felt like a safe space at that time, you know?
The safe space is quite necessary.
Yeah.
My safe space was assumed, but it was non-existent.
What do you mean?
It means that I thought that was a safe space, but it was not a safe space.
Oh.
And it was I experienced what I explained before is what I was experiencing. I was like, oh, so that's why they're like, you need the structure. That makes sense. That makes sense. Because you're just like left in the middle of the ocean by yourself, wondering what the fuck is going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I have to deal with this. For sure.
Yeah, I guess like I think it probably would have been more devastating for me because I was in a relationship. It was like my first relationship that I had sex for the first time. So I think like, I don't know that I would no, I would not. I know myself. I would not have been able to handle at all the implications of sex, especially for someone like me who's such a romantic, with someone who I was not in a relationship with. Like I was in a relationship with this guy for like, I don't think we had sex for like the first 3 months of our relationship. Like I really made him wait like a minute, because I was just like I don't really know the reason why. I just wanted to make him wait. I think I would have actually, I also like, he said I love you first and I didn't. And like, he was like very love bombing.
Yeah, like 18-year-olds.
As 18-year-olds tend to do. He's like, I love you. And I'm like, okay. He's like, I want to have sex with you. Right. And I was like, okay. Hold on. Hold on there.
You're right. So I love you. You need to chill.
Right. We need to chill that
Bring
out.
It back
Exactly. That's
bit,
not going to make me fuck you.
Ew, I got the ick.
I'm getting the ick. I'm getting the ick.
I'm so glad ick was not a thing back then.
Oh my God, I know.
Because man, I was doing some very ick-worthy things.
Yeah. Yes.
And I waited for a pretty long time before I had sex for the first time.
Oh, I was in college. I had sex for the first time in college.
Yeah, 18 though. I had sex for the first time in college, 21.
Oh, I got you.
Which is, it's not for lack of trying per se. Like, that's not how I wanted to mean that phrase.
Yeah.
But it's not for lack of opportunity. I would say that's more accurate. Because I was having to not beat these girls off me, but like reject a lot of women.
Yeah.
Women do be horny first year of college.
This is true.
Especially all those girls that had very overbearing parents.
Yeah.
They're ready to release it all.
Yep.
Take anything that moves.
Yeah.
Which is not the way to do it. But more power to you. But for a similar reason. I was like, because I still had that thing about like, I don't need that many sexual partners. Like I want my first time to be with someone that I could at least see myself being with.
Totally. Like
I don't have to love you.
Yeah.
But because this is how I just look at relationships in general. I don't care about feelings as much as I care about compatibility.
Right.
So I was like, if we are compatible enough to the point where I can see this going longer than like a year, you're a worthy candidate.
Yes.
And I felt super lofty about it too because of how many people wanted it.
Yeah.
I was just like, nah, I don't think so. No, you're not the one.
You're not.
You're not the one.
It's so funny how like, I don't know if this is entirely the case for you, but like going into it with like so much like, especially for us, like our personality specifically, like with so much like care and like there a lot of intentionality. And then after that point, granted, it took a little bit of time for me to like then like descend.
No, descend. You descended. Say what it is. It's okay. Judgment-free zone here.
No, exactly. I'm not trying to judge myself because I genuinely, like I said,
Fine,
genuinely. Oh my gosh! What the fuck?
Well, we're not going to judge you. You're not going to judge yourself. I'll do it for you.
I'll judge you. But yeah, then for like once the sex was had and the experiences of being with someone that you were like in love and all this sort of thing, then after that it was like, all right, now let's really explore this shit.
Now let's actually put on my Dora the Explorer map, backpack, all that stuff.
Let's see how and where I can push the boundaries.
There you go.
That was really kind of the mindset that I kind of went into later on in college.
Mine
for
is
sure.
so much more depressing. Holy shit. And looking back in retrospect, I was like, that's like the worst reason. Especially like for me and like everything I understand for myself. It's like on brand. Like, of course I would do that, but I hate that I did that.
I hate that.
It's
but it's 21-year-old Jem,
right.
But I understand.
I'm just like,
I understand
that's so dumb.
Yeah.
That's so dumb. But because I was doing it for that, I was able to really participate in the space to like the fullness of my ability.
Yeah.
It's kind of impressive. So that's the next part, which is why I'm not like regretting it.
Right.
Because like I was pretty damn cool. I was living a lot of motherfuckers' dreams.
Yes.
I was living a lot of motherfuckers' dreams. Like, oh, you want to fuck her? I got you.
Gotcha.
I talked to her. She was back in my apartment. And I'm living alone too. So it's like, I was that guy for a while.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think like probably what motivated me for, I think the most part, like, because it would be like careless to not say that like, I think a lot of like the motivation that I had in like my like sexual exploration had a lot to do with like I guess it's not negative at all. But a lot of like the motivation for me was that like, okay, I went to college. I sort of like, I like went to parties and like made out with boys and all that kind of stuff, but didn't really do anything. Then I got into my first relationship, and then that like was a dumpster fire. And then I immediately got into my second relationship, and then I left that, and I just felt as if I was so like, I felt like I just had no like idea. I feel like I didn't, like I left like those relationships feeling like very like sexually inadequate, not necessarily like performance or anything like that, but I just didn't feel like I knew enough to like then be in a relationship and be able to like healthily be in a relationship. I'm not exactly sure entirely why. I think a lot of it, no, I do know why. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that like I was noticing in those relationships that my previous like repressed shame around my sexuality from my childhood was popping up a lot of the experiences that I had in the past were really, it's like more so like in my second relationship were really like popping up and becoming like a thing. And I didn't really realize, I think that was like the first time that I was like, oh, like, okay, childhood shit, like that's like, that comes up like that doesn't just like go away. Right. Like it's like, oh, you're aware of it, you're cognizant of it.
I have an inner child.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy shit.
Right. And when you're in a relationship, that's really when you find out those things. Like it's not just you and your thoughts. Like then you have like this other person. For example,
what was something that was coming up? Just out of curiosity.
Well, my libido very like very variant. Yeah. Not consistent literally at all. And I had a lot of sensitivity when it came to like talking about sex. And granted, I still do. Like that's something that like I still very much am. But there was just issues. The issues being like I did not ever really want to have sex, but I would want to have sex. And like the person I was in a relationship with not feeling like wanted or needed, me getting really stressed out because I could not understand. I was like, I'd be sitting there like I am really attracted to this person. I do love this person. But I feel completely physically shut down. I had no understanding of why when I was engaging in the sexual space, I was so like
anti.
Yeah. Or just so like I could never predict myself. So it created more stress. You know me, I'm a control freak. I like predictions.
Right. Horoscope
I love projections.
Right.
I like numbers. Give me numbers. You know?
Oh man.
I couldn't predict myself. And then I would try and drink to make myself relax and like so that I would be in the mood. And I was doing all these things that were just compounding the unhealthiness of it.
Which I could imagine has to be so confusing as like a horny child.
Yeah, no.
Like wanting it all the time.
That was something that was so hard for me to conceptualize. I was like, I have always been a very sexual person. So why is it when I'm now in a relationship, I never conceived in my life that would ever be an issue. So I'm like, why is it now that I'm in a relationship that this is like a problem?
Yeah.
And it was something that I really had to like go out and unpack. And I guess that's why I would say it was careless. It would be careless of me to not mention that, because there was a part of the exploration for me where I was like, I'm going to beat it out of me. Like I'm going to have so much sex that I am going to just have sex again.
What's that? Is it shock therapy?
Maybe exposure therapy.
Exposure therapy. That's what it is.
Like I'm just going to have so much sex that I will just want to have sex again, which wasn't necessarily the case. Did that work? Did it work? No, it didn't. It didn't entirely work.
Oh man, the things our young minds come up with instead of just like.
But I think on the positive side of that, like. I think what was helpful about it is that I was able to learn that I was able to have very positive sexual experiences, and that I was able to there was a satisfaction, and I don't know exactly what it is and something that I still have, but there's a satisfaction in being able to cultivate a very cool, safe, connective experience with a stranger. Or someone who starts out as a stranger, and then you kind of learn and connect with them, and you can kind of create a very cool moment in time. I very much enjoy that.
That is really cool.
And it I think those moments really helped heal in a way. Granted, not all of it was completely healing. There was moments where I would wake up and I'm like, I should not have done that.
Well, that was a regression.
That's a no. That's a no. But those are also important. I wrote this down. I think those are important to take note of, because I definitely use those as guides along the way. What I was feeling in that moment, and what did that indicate? Because I feel some of like the main words, or the three main words that I feel like I hear from people of like, you know, especially ones who are, you know, anti-casual like sex, anti-casual relationships. You hear like regret, shame, and being used. Like those are like the three things that I feel like you hear often. And I agree, you do not want to feel those ways, but casual sex is not inherently, you're not going to inherently feel that way, in my opinion, just because you're having casual sex. But you do need to listen to yourself when those feelings are coming up. So I wrote down what I think, what each feeling is and what you should do.
Okay.
Essentially.
I'm very curious.
Or I think that's kind of how it is.
Yeah, I love these things. Advice? Wow.
Advice.
I'm ready.
This is my advice,
ready.
guys. So when you regret having sex with someone, that is an indicator that you should reevaluate whether the behavior is still in alignment with your desires. So I think when you're regretting having sex,
holy shit,
right,
man. God damn.
Reevaluating why you're having just the sex in general.
Right.
Reevaluating that.
Dude.
When you feel
so good. It's so fucking good.
Thanks. I'm glad you're enjoying this. When you feel shame after having sex, maybe evaluating how external factors, so judgment from other people, your childhood, as we've talked about a lot, old value sets, etc., maybe informing your thoughts and perception. When you feel used after having sex, reevaluating who you are choosing to engage in these sexual interactions with, and or casual sex may no longer be in alignment with your desires, but mainly judging
kiss.
That.
Oh my God.
And so I feel like
that is so fucking well put.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit,
yeah.
that's so good. That's so fucking good.
Because like obviously like you're not like, as I think we mentioned, like you're going to have like the mistakes. You're not like going to like, even with the best of intentions, when you're engaging casually, and like I said, I don't want to be careless with it. Like it's not like as if you're not going to have moments where you're going to feel a certain type of way or whatnot. But the things that you can take control of, especially if you're someone who is going to have sex with you. You're going to go on a first date, second date with someone. You're going to have sex with them. You met a guy at a bar who's really cute. You go home with him. Like if that's like the way that you want to engage, those are fun moments. Those can be really fun experiences. You just have to like take inventory of your feelings afterwards, you know, and then adjust from there. And I feel like that's kind of why also I feel like when I was really in my like sexual exploration phase, I was able, like, I can look back on it and like not feel like, honestly, any judgment or shame or whatever that I have felt about it has been like the shame has been because of external things.
And then separating yourself from that shame is a process in itself.
Totally.
So it's not just being aware of the shame, like, well, I don't feel it anymore. Like, that's deeply ingrained. It's part of your DNA type shit.
Yeah, 100%.
But this, like, you call it like the intentionality that you go about it, is literally the reason why I don't have too much to say about your sexual proclivities. Yeah. It's so, I think about this from time to time because your behavior in relation to what I say about the same behavior in other people, never the same. Never the same. And you literally articulated just now why that's the case. Yeah. So good. It's so good. Just like your ability to be aware of that while engaging in that space, you have to understand is like the most unique thing. Like that is so
one thing a bitch is gonna be, she'll be aware.
Right, like that's so atypical because people are feeling those, like the shame, the regret being used, and they're internalizing that shit, and they're not qualifying it, and they're participating in the same mode of behavior, ruining the association with the experience. And I'm like, why are you doing this? And then I talk to you, and you're like, see, you can do that. What are you doing? Like, what the heck is going on, man? That's so crazy.
There's just like so much more like growth to be had, in my opinion, in taking that approach. Because I think the thing that like I think is so limiting to this conversation is to have those feelings, regret, shame, feeling used, and to immediately be like, casual sex is bad. This is such, I mean, I feel like this is kind of a wild take to say. I don't know.
It is.
Yeah.
Especially coming from a girl. It's kind of wild. Super crazy. I understand it. But then I also understand it because if you can do that, like we were saying, sex, first and foremost, sex is good.
Yeah.
Sex good. Sex good. If you can come to it from that perspective.
Yeah.
And then kind of have that separation, differentiation of why sex is bad in that moment.
Yeah.
Because if sex is good,
right,
then there's something else making it bad.
Exactly.
And that can be tailored, that can be qualified, that can be elaborated upon.
Right.
That can be changed.
Yeah.
But if sex is just bad, because casual sex and relational sex is sex.
Yeah.
There is no real distinction there.
Sure, yeah.
Not like for the physical physical mechanics of sex, sex is sex.
Yeah.
So if casual sex is bad and relational sex is good, you are not unpacking what is bad about the sexual experience that you're having.
Yeah.
And things that happen in casual sex can be repeated in committed relationships, and you're triggered and you don't know why you have this resistance to your partner when you're supposed to be in love and you know he loves you.
Yeah.
But you can't get past that.
Yeah.
Because what the problem was never sex to begin with, whether it's casual or relational.
Exactly.
It was something else. Like
Entirely.
the things you just said.
As I had to like unpack and learn for sure. Yeah, because there definitely was a point where I was like, okay, like it's not the sex. Like the sex, like having multiple partners, it only got me so far to then be like, okay, yeah, these other things, it's not the sex itself, it's these other things. It's also kind of so funny to me to like say, like, obviously we have to like distinguish saying like casual sex, but what I really mean, and granted at the time in my early 20s, I was like pretty intentionally not looking for a relationship, having casual sex. But really what I mean is just like, I don't know. There's just in the day to day, there's not so much thought of like going into it of like, I am having casual sex right now. It's
a classification we have to use to discuss it. Because there does need to be a distinction between the two. Right. But like sex, like I said, that's why I said like sex is sex regardless.
Right. Like what I'm essentially saying is I'm not like opposed to like finding someone attractive and taking it there. You know, like that's really all that it is. But that also there is still like I don't know if like discernment's the right word, but like there's still choice in there. There's still like a lot of like not engaging in sex with people.
And that's also the other side of like casual sex, right? Which is like when you say you're pro casual sex, which what's the implication that comes with that is like you're like okay with promiscuity. Yeah. And that's not necessarily what you specifically are saying. It's like no, again, don't fuck everything that moves. It's not a good idea. Yeah. Don't do that. But to reduce the experience or the desire for the experience to a committed structure isn't necessarily the correct way to do. Isn't necessarily what you have to do. Exactly. And you don't have to feel so bad about not wanting to do that. And that's how you get those people that are the serial daters over here because they can't experience romantic intimacy, sexual intimacy outside of the structure. So they hop from one relationship to the next, not solving any problems that ruined the first one because they want to have sex and they can't have it outside of a relationship. Yeah. Oh, well, and I guess that kind of goes to show how beating it out of you, quote unquote, like you said.
That's really aggressive.
Right. Like I think that your intention in doing that was like realized. Yeah. Because that's kind of what fucking happened. Yeah.
Like I also was 21 years old. So that was very much a 21-year-old method to like solution. All right, this is how we're going to figure it out.
But like
I'm just going to do a lot of it.
But by doing it so much, you were able to realize how that isn't the problem.
Yeah. 100%.
Because if you didn't do that to that point,
no,
and like the repeating pattern of still feeling that way. Yeah, you have never really noticed it the way.
And that was a part of the healing. Like otherwise, I still would have been sitting here like sex is my issue, and it's like it's not. That wasn't what the shame that I was really dealing with. You know,
which isn't to say you have to go through that to realize. And that's like that was my point when I'm prefacing the conversation the way I did.
Yeah.
It's like, these are all things that we have come to understand after going through the process.
Right.
And I am hesitant to say that you have to go through the process to understand these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't
think
know.
that these things, my wishful thinking.
Yeah, totally.
I would want it to be possible to understand these things without necessarily having to go through all the ups and downs.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that ups and downs are bad per se. But like I said, you're unique.
Yeah.
Most people will not go through what you've gone through and end up where you are.
Yeah.
So to like say as of like, this is what you should be doing, I'm just like, no, because so which is why I always default is like, maybe you shouldn't fuck that many people. Maybe that's not in your best interest. Because I know that for the average person, that behavior is more detrimental than not.
Right. Yeah, no, yeah. That is very, it is like something that like, it's funny because I've learned quickly that I should not be giving that advice to everyone. I remember having a situation with a friend in college where I think we were at the somewhat similar, going through like a breakup and like kind of like just talking about like exploring and all these kinds of stuff. And I was just like, yeah, just like go and like have sex, like meet people, like explore other people, explore your sexuality, blah, blah, blah. And then seeing later on, I don't think I was the entire reason why she was doing that, but like seeing later on how that manifested for her and how that manifested for me, it's still hard for me to just, the self-awareness, whatever. I don't know if there's something about it, like about the body, like, and how the way that I learn and like process things. Like, I don't know if like literally like physically engaging with the thing like helped me in some way.
I think it does, but the reason why I think it does is more related to your habit or your predisposition for like confronting.
Confrontation.
Yeah, like you confront issues and you stay in those issues until they're resolved.
Yeah,
which is not a common thing. Most people are avoidant.
Yeah, I do over my problems, my own problems with myself. Yeah, I definitely obsess for sure.
So that hyperfixation on trying to solve the thing, you produce a solution from doing that.
Yeah.
Versus a lot of people engage in promiscuous behavior to escape from something.
I see.
So
I'm using it to confront myself, while other people may be using it as like a Band-Aid.
Exactly.
Got you. Yeah.
So they're over here bleeding out and cutting themselves even deeper.
Totally. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good at all.
Which is why, similarly, I don't give sex advice in relation to my sexual experience.
Yeah, I've kind of stopped. I like I said, I learned. I was like, oh, that's.
I didn't want that for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like people's relationship. Okay, it's a little bit different, and like I'm not going to necessarily recommend this to everyone. Like it's just happened to work for me.
Right.
That's all I can really say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's impressive. I'm impressed that it worked for you, because I know things.
Yeah, she went down deep
know
and dark places.
I was there for that.
Stop.
And
yeah.
And for you to be here how you are, just like it's impressive. It's kind of crazy.
I was curious.
And she experimented.
And I needed to know for myself.
She wanted to explore, and she fucking explored.
And I needed to know for myself.
It worked for you, because a lot of people get lost in the jungle, man. They get lost. You never see them again.
This is very true. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But yeah, can't give everybody my advice, because and not necessarily in the sense that what works for me doesn't work for you, but similar to you, and I don't think, and I am not affected by these things the way you will be. I approach this space completely differently. I can participate in and out of it and not be super attached to the outcome. And you're already talking to me about how you need all these prerequisites before you're even considering participating in this space.
Yeah.
It's not going to end well for you, bro. Not gonna end well.
Oh my god.
But men always like end up fine.
Or
incels.
Don't dismiss that.
Or incels.
Oh my god.
They're fine or they're incels.
I'm sure that's not entirely the case. You guys just don't talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. But people talk about it with me.
Yeah.
They don't talk about it with
general.
other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because my friends, I've heard some very sad things. And it's just like, I know that it's not keeping you from being what you need to be. Yeah. But I can hear about how you're talking about this, how much it affects you. Yeah. And how men engage in the sexual space can be a whole episode in and of itself because of what they go to that space for and what they're getting out of it. Oh man. Breaks my heart low key. Breaks my heart low key. But for all intents and purposes, they're fine. Yeah. It's the getting to that space that's the problem for most men.
What space?
Most men can't have sex like that. Oh. Most men don't got it like that. Oh. 1 out of 3, I think, haven't had sex in like the last year.
Oh yeah, it's much harder for men to acquire the sex.
Acquire the sex
than it is for women. Indeed. Yeah, that is true.
You just have to get it like that. And some of y'all are really lame. Which, honestly, that's why I want to talk about that video I sent you. Did you watch the video I sent you earlier?
Forgot.
Oh, you suck.
I know. Okay. I literally was like, I need to watch it, and I was like in the middle of something else when you sent it, and then
It's okay. I didn't want to talk about it in this episode. Okay. I don't think. I think it was like a toxic thing, and I was going to victim blame. So. Oh my god. I just wanted to hear. I just wanted to hear your opinion because, like I said before, you are my barometer of misogyny. Gotcha. I just need to make sure that I'm not completely out of pocket.
Sounds good. This sounds like a plan.
Right. But oh my gosh, I think that's a good place to pause the conversation for a second. Just like wrap it up.
Oh, as in wrap it up.
Like the episode. Episode.
I couldn't tell whether it was like a camera thing or like.
Right. No, in the sense that like, as like for the first discussion about it, I don't think there's much more to say.
No,
per se.
I don't think there is.
I think that's kind of it for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to like think about how to like I don't know. I think part of like me having the experiences that I've had and like the lessons that I've learned through that, and then in like talking to other people, talking to you, talking to my friends, my sisters, etc., about their experiences, like there are things that are somewhat universal, but a lot of it, to me, it feels so like individual as well. Like there's like it feels like an incredibly like unique experience, like the way that people experience sex and experience the erotic space, and also very universal, and we all experience it the same way. It feels both at the same time. And I think like that's why it's like hard, like when I see things on the internet and it's like, this is what it is, like entirely, or no, that's what it is entirely. Right. It's like you're like, even as we're saying right now, and I think that's why it's good we're giving like our background and how we've seen sex and how we've dealt with it in our lives, because these opinions are so heavily informed by what you've gone through and your experiences have been. Like if I just gave my opinion based off of my experience, then
you'd be giving a lot of people bad advice.
I would be so like, I'd probably be getting people really bad advice.
That would have been horrible.
Yeah, horrible. Exactly. I'd be on the internet ruining just telling lives. People like
sprinkle.
Right? No, that part.
I was like, come
literally,
on.
I would be giving absolutely horrible advice, and and so I think it's just like it's I keep saying the word careless. That's my word of the day. But I think it's careless on those people's parts, to like not. I agree. And to not like, and you can, oh my God, I get it. You can say like the whole biology thing. Well, like there's like endorphins and oxytocin or whatever, like the hormones that go off in your brain. I'm like, yeah, no, totally. It bonds you to that person. I think though there is like a power, and being able to learn how to, because I think people, when they have like casual, the mistake people can make in having casual interactions is they try and fight their biology. So that like, I'm going to engage in this, but I'm going to be heartless about it. No emotions, just sex. That's all we're doing, blah, blah, blah. And you try and really like, separate yourself from the thing that's happening. But there's such a power in like being able to harness that, like that intimacy and the biology of like bonding with that person and having a connection with that person and not allowing that to like control you, to not completely like, granted, I get it. This whole soul ties, like I know people have their arguments for like energetically, spiritually, and I totally understand that. I think, like I said, that's why I would not be giving advice that I'm giving.
And then that's also why you are very intentional with who you're procreating.
Oh,
with.
100%.
You're not just random dude fucking everybody, right?
No, and I also have learned from my early 20s of that like very radical exploration where I'm now at a place where it is a lot more intentional than that, where it is kind of like I do care more about where I am, who I'm sharing energetically. But I think that's also just a testament of your youth where you're just so like careless with yourself in almost a beautiful way. I don't know if that's also probably controversial to say.
Beautiful is
okay.
Beautiful. I get it. I get it.
Yes, the carelessness of like.
But beautiful is crazy.
When you're well, because you're thinking about it in the terms of sex, I'm
thinking of it in the terms of how you're explaining it, Renee.
I know.
You always say that, and you always think that I'm interpreting it, but it's like, bro, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I'm
like
just
the beautiful
saying,
chaos, but it's like, ugh.
It is the beautiful chaos. You were like, I don't know. I think there's a beauty and like that youthful like.
Reckless
when I get older, I will be able to explain this so much better.
What do you mean when you get because you still all the youth?
I'm not as reckless as I was when I was 21 at all, but like I feel like it's a thought that's still like being solidified in my brain. But and obviously there has to be some care. You don't want to be completely reckless, but it's almost the like youthful naivete of just like, I'm going to give my heart. I'm going to, for your first love, I'm going to give everything.
That called? It's called something.
Yeah.
I forget the word for it, but I know what you're talking about.
And then to be able to take that and then hone that down into what you then become, where you are a lot more intentional about
it's like the freedom of youth to just fully immerse yourself and give everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I find it to be very beautiful.
I find that to be very beautiful, but it's like the concept, the retrospective nature of it, wonderful.
Yeah.
I can talk about that all day.
Totally.
The process, looking at that shit.
Yeah, not always the best. I agree.
Not as pretty as I want it to be.
I agree. But anyways, I don't know exactly where I was going with that. But
yeah, we're saying a lot of things.
Yeah, I went on like a little bit of a rant. I apologize.
I apologize for my outburst.
But yeah, all to say that what we see on the internet, the advice, like it is like there are core principles, of course, but it's also like so influenced by everyone, like your own personal experience. And I think that's just always like important to like preface because there are so many things and things are going to affect you in a way that don't affect others, right. and vice versa. And especially in a space like the sexual space, it's going to be so varying. But like I said, there is like a through line, but it also can be very varying.
Yeah, I agree. Because the through line is that everybody gets horny and everybody is having sex. And the way that we can the only way that we can communicate it with each other is through the generalities.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But sex 100% is for the individuals, 100% for the person having it, the two people that are sharing that experience.
Right.
And how you interpret that experience is completely unique to you. There's no like what sex was for you is completely different than what sex was for me. And we can share in the fact that we engage in that experience.
Yeah.
But again, we weren't doing that for the same reasons. We didn't get the same things from it.
Yeah.
What happens in like the current and present after going through all those experiences? Not the same. Not the same. But it is fun to talk about. And there is like a relatability almost to it. It's like, as two people who have had the sex, you get like, you understand the nature, especially in the hookup culture side of it. It's like, you get how men are, you get how women be, all that stuff. So, and not necessarily to always everyone ever talking about this is to have to preface so much, but for you, the listener, hearing all these things, understand that the preface is implied.
Yeah.
So, a person saying so definitively this thing about sex is usually speaking from their own sexual experience, and it may or may not apply to you. You got to take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Bring it back home, because at the end of the day, like I always say, sex is for you and you first and foremost.
Yes.
You can't have good sex if you're trying to be a people pleaser.
Yes.
You have to please yourself, and then you can share that pleasure with another person. And to be continued. There's a lot more to say about it.
Yeah,
there's 1,000 things more to say about it.
This is one of those things.
Yeah, it's one of those things. To which
humans
point,
are obsessed with.
Right. The one universal obsession that we all share.
Exactly.
Which, to that point, instead of asking you guys a question, I'm curious as to what your questions about sex are.
Yeah.
Because what do you hear? What do you see on the internet that makes you question things? What do you struggle with in regards to sexuality? How does that affect your day-to-day XYZ?
Yeah.
Happy to hear it, and then that can help us frame how we progress the next phases of these conversations.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
Me too.
Yeah. Make sure to like and follow us on all of our...
completely dead.
Oh.
But it's okay. Just look at that camera.
Okay. Like and follow us on all of our social media. So Instagram, TikTok, TheIntellectuals, our YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube and like our Facebook page.
Because at the end of the day, I'm Jem.
And I'm Renee.
And we're the Intellectuals, signing off until next time.
Goodbye.
Cute.